So I'm going to give you our top 3 tips of marketing and managing a plaintiff's law firm and growing your team, growing a team of superstars. Beginning with tip number 1, test first. What does that mean? When you send out an advertisement on the job boards about a position, let's say it's a paralegal, what you should do is very detailed describe exactly what you expect of the paralegal. For example, in New York, it might be to independently draft a complete set of discovery responses, including what's called a bill of particulars. So you want someone who independently, without your oversight, can do that. So you're simply signing the discovery responses. That's so critically important to test first. So what you do is once you find a candidate that is serious, that you're interested in hiring, you pay for their day, pay the first 3 hours of their day, bring them into your office, give them an assignment, ask them, I'd like you to draft a set of discovery responses for a case that we have. I'm going to give you access to the complete file. And by the way, you're going to pay them for their time to do this. So when they arrive or at the end of the day, you're going to hand them a check. Whatever their hourly rate is, you just pay them for the day. So this is not, you're not getting their time for free. You're testing them to see, are they capable of doing the work that you want them to do? Ideally, with very little supervision from you. So I'll give you an example. We had one person who had about 30 years of experience as a paralegal, highest recommendations that you could imagine. I brought her in for a sort of, one of these testing days. And within about 45 minutes of being there, we discovered that she had never worked in a firm that had a paperless office. She was not going to begin doing paperless, and she was totally against it. She didn't understand it. Our firm has been paperless since the late 90s. We instantly knew within 45 minutes was not a good fit, that she was not going to work. She was not willing to show any willingness to be flexible. And within 45 minutes, we gave her a check for 1 hour time and she left. That was it. That was somebody who was going to get a job offer from us. But by using that time, we realized it's just a bad fit. She wasn't good with technology. She wasn't willing to try to learn technology. And she had no idea how a paperless office functions. And I'm not willing to go back to the old way of relying on paper. So that's how you test first. Give them a specific assignment, pay for their time, see if they can do it. That's the only way you're going to know. And if they come back to you and they say, well, I don't know, you have to answer this, and they come back with 14 different questions on how to do it, well, then obviously that's going to continue after you hire them. They're going to keep coming to you with questions, and that's not what you want. You want somebody who can independently manage your case management system. So test first is tip number 1. Tip number 2, screen candidates through the application process, but also through the interview process. So what do I mean by that? Rather than just simply asking them to send in their resume and a cover letter, be very specific on what you want them to do. For example, you might say, I'd like you to upload a video that's no more than 3 minutes that describes why you are the ideal candidate for this position. Some people might be like, I don't know how to upload a video. I don't know how to record a video. So they're instantly screening themselves out because they can't do a basic task that you would need them to do on the job. And let's say that they don't follow your instructions, or you ask them to upload a letter describing why they're the best candidate for the position, and the letter has got typos, or you ask them to double space it, no more than 5 paragraphs, and they send you a whole, if they're ignoring your advice now, they're going to ignore your advice after they get hired. So you're screening them that way. Now, let's say that you bring them for an interview. How do you screen them there? I ask in advance of the interview that they memorize our firm's 4 core values and the purpose of our law firm. This is really easy stuff. It's not hard to do. But believe it or not, they'll come into the interview and they'll say, oh, I don't know what the core values are. I have no idea. Or they're fumbled. They might know one. But our purpose, values, and mission are really important to our firm. And if they didn't take the time to memorize those 4 core values, which are really simple, then they're not going to really care about our core values after they get hired. So that's another way of screening them through the interview process and the application process. They're screening themselves out. You're going to find out that very few people do the most basic things. A lot of people disagree with me on that, but I also think that if someone is not willing to do these really simple tasks to get the job, then they're not really that interested in it. Because if you think of different positions that you've applied for in your career, if they ask you to do these simple things, you do them to the T because you want the position. So it's a great way of screening people out. My third best tip is hire known commodity. So before you start just posting the application on all the job boards, ask the people that you work with. We need a new paralegal. Does anyone know anyone out there that might be interested in this job, even if they're currently working at a firm? Because there's lots of people working at firms that are not happy and they're looking to get a better position. And you might post it on social media that you're looking for an administrative assistant or a legal secretary, what have you. But you're going to find out, you may know people in other law firms where you worked who were stellar employees, and you could go to them and just say, look, I'm sure that you're happy where you are. I just want you to know that we're looking, and if you're ever interested in working with us, we would love that opportunity. Because if you don't ask, you're not going to find out. I mean, how do you know that they're going to work out? Well, if you've worked with them for 5 or 10 years, you already know what their capabilities are, that they show up to work. They have good technology skills. They've been through a 5-year interview or a 10-year interview. So the known commodity is really the ideal way of hiring. Those are my top 3 tips. I'm going to give you a bonus tip. Remote workers. During the pandemic, we hired a paralegal from Knoxville, Tennessee, and she is absolutely dynamite. And that would not have happened unless we were willing to work with remote workers. And you might say, well, how do we know that we can trust that the remote worker is actually doing the job? Well, number one, you'll know because you're getting work back from them. Either they're productive or they're not. And secondly, if you don't trust that person, whether they work in your office or remotely, then it's not a good fit. You've got to trust people. You've got to trust they're going to do the work until they give you a reason not to trust them. If they are lying or something like that, it's simply a matter of trust. And by working with remote workers, because our firm works with many remote workers. In fact, we have very few people who are in our office on a given day because we work with remote people. And that doesn't mean, every single day we'll have a daily huddle via Zoom where we're discussing the work, the priorities they have for that day, but they're not physically in our office. Why is this such a good thing to do? Because it expands the talent pool. You're not limited by the talent that lives in the geographic region of your law firm. You've expanded your reach across the country. It's a really great thing that I would encourage you to consider. So those are our 3 top tips for hiring a superstar team. And in my view, there is nothing more important than having a superstar team to support you, because you can't do this alone. You got to have the talent with you. Those are my top 3 tips. If you liked the video, please subscribe to our YouTube channel. That would mean a lot to me. Comment, I'll respond. Share the video. I'd really appreciate that. And I will see you next time. Take care. Bye-bye.